Hello, it's been a while since you heard my voice. For those of you that are more new, you probably never heard my voice unless you checked out an old video. I used to do reactions and I'm trying something different that I used to do. And I'm reacting to something that was found under the ice in Antarctica. Actually, I haven't watched this video, so I'll be watching along with you and kind of seeing what they discovered down there. I've always been curious. You always hear rumors and legends and research and things like that, and you hear about bases, you hear about types of structures that have been built down there by different nations and different territories claimed. So I just wanted to see what they were actually doing down there or what they discovered, and I just decided to react to this video. So without rambling along too much, we will start.
Antarctica is easily the least understood and the most mysterious of all Earth's continents in the 21st century. It's such a poorly understood place that most people alive today still don't even really have a solid grasp about Antarctica's true size or shape. Something that's probably not really helped by our perception of Antarctica as this sprawling, misshapen blob that we always see stretching across the bottom of our two-dimensional maps, if it's even displayed on the map at all. In reality, Antarctica is the world's fifth largest continent, exceeding the sizes of Australia and Europe and being closer in size to South America than any other continent. The true scale of Antarctica can be revealed when overlaying it atop a continent that we're more familiar with, like North America. Antarctica is significantly larger than the mainland continental 48 US states, while the distance from the Antarctic Peninsula to the other side of the continent is as far as the Canadian Arctic Islands are to Mexico. And, placed over Europe, Antarctica would stretch from the far northern reaches of Norway and Finland down to Iran and Iraq in the southeast and well past Ireland into the mid-Atlantic to the west.
Interestingly enough, I never realized Antarctica was that large. I knew it was big, but I didn't know it was bigger than the actual North American continent, or as at the same size. That's a lot of frozen, I guess they call it frozen tundra. That's just a lot of frozen real estate. That's massive. It's almost inconceivable. Just a giant sheet of ice, or just a giant sheet of frozen mass like that, like thousands of kilometers, miles long. I never really thought about it to be that small. But anyway, let me not keep you.
It's a genuinely massive place, and it's also almost completely empty and absent from human life. The human population of Antarctica ranges from as many as 4,000 people during the warmer Antarctic summer months to as few as only 1,000 people during the long, dark, and savagely cold Antarctic winters, when the darkness of night envelops the entire continent for months straight and the temperatures plummet to beneath negative 34 degrees Celsius continent-wide. But it's not just the brutal weather of Antarctica that keeps its population low. It's also just an insanely remote place that's really difficult to get yourself to. It's located down at the bottom of the globe, and the closest large human settlement to the continent is Ushuaia in far southern Argentina, which is still about 1,000 kilometers away from the tip of the Antarctic Peninsula. Despite this closeness, however, the distance between Ushuaia and Antarctica is separated by the infamous Drake Passage, an expanse of water that is perhaps the roughest and most dangerous part of the world's oceans. Here at the bottom of the civilizational world between the continents, the Southern and Pacific Oceans flow unobstructed into the Atlantic, representing the only location in the southern hemisphere where winds and ocean currents can each flow around the entire world without any obstruction from land, allowing them to violently whip around the world continually and keep picking up speed and strength as they go. This, combined with the collision of warmer water in the north and colder water in the south, results in powerful waves in the Drake Passage that can climb up to nearly 20 meters or 65 feet high during extreme weather scenarios. With the rough conditions through the Drake Passage and the vast distances between Antarctica and the other nearby continents of Africa and Australia, it's no wonder that human eyes most likely never even saw the frozen continent at all until the 19th century, when a Russian ship made the first ever recorded discovery of Antarctica in 1820. Even today, more than 2 centuries later, we still understand precious little about this isolated continent.
What makes me wonder right now is, considering how the rough the waters were, if there were any ships that tried and sank, if there's any record of that, I'll probably have to look that up. Because if that Russian ship was the first ship, like, that remembers, I wonder how many ships actually have tried or just stumbled upon it and just sank. I don't know, maybe they bring that up. I have no idea. Maybe.
especially anything about what's possibly beneath the titanic Antarctic ice sheet. Ice covers more than 98% of the Antarctic continent's surface, leaving very few exposed areas of land above the ice that we can actually observe with our own eyes. On average, across the entire continent, the Antarctic ice sheet stretches more than 2 kilometers thick from the surface we can observe down to the surface of the actual continental landmass. But at its thickest points, the ice on Antarctica can reach upwards of nearly 5 kilometers thick, which is nearly as thick as 6 of the Burj Khalifas in Dubai, the world's tallest building, all stacked on top of each other. And it's estimated that more than 90% of the continent beneath the ice remains unmapped and unknown. But the small amount of information we already do know about what's beneath the world's largest ice sheet on the world's most mysterious continent is already incredibly fascinating. For starters, we already know that Antarctica isn't really a unified landmass beneath the ice like it appears to us above the ice. Were all of the continent's ice sheet to melt or be removed, the Antarctic continent's true shape would be revealed to us. What we currently know as the Antarctic Peninsula, in reality, would emerge as a completely separate archipelago of mountainous islands that is
Okay, so this is really a group of islands. Okay, this makes a lot of sense. Not saying it wouldn't make sense if it was just a big landmass, but that's pretty interesting. Had no clue. I guess that's what the when the plane flew over with the radioactive measurements, whatever they were doing. Maybe that's what it found. But this is interesting.
sometimes been referred to as Lesser Antarctica, while most of the rest of the continent, known as Greater Antarctica, would remain above the ocean surface and be roughly the same size as Australia. Each of these two different halves of Antarctica, one archipelagic and one continental, would become this way because of their radically different geologies and histories. The area of Greater Antarctica, or the eastern side of the continent, is known to consist of more ancient igneous and metamorphic rocks, while the more archipelagic Lesser Antarctica is much younger and made up of sedimentary and volcanic rocks instead. Fascinatingly, Lesser Antarctica belongs to the Great Pacific Ring of Fire, a continuous belt of tectonic fault lines and active volcanoes that spans nearly the entire perimeter of the Pacific Ocean, and which has existed for about the past 35 million years. As a result, most of the archipelagos and islands that exist in Lesser Antarctica are volcanic in nature, despite their appearances of frozen ice and glaciers atop of them. Mount Erebus, far to the east in Antarctica, is the highest active volcano on the continent and the southernmost active volcano on the planet, complete with a lake of molten lava within its inner summit crater that has been observable since the 1970s and the last erupted only a few years ago in 2020. The average year-round temperature around where Mount Erebus is located remains around negative 17 degrees Celsius, and during the Antarctic winter months between April and September, the temperature will never climb above negative 20 Celsius, and it'll sink to as low as negative 62 degrees Celsius in August. Cold enough to cause frostbite to expose skin within minutes, or to instantly freeze water. If you were to pour out a bowl of hot water in the air at these temperatures, it would turn to snow before it even hit the ground. This is an environment that is incredibly hostile to life where you wouldn't expect to find very much of it.
That's what makes me wonder, how do they survive their... Anyway, I'm sure they're scientists. I know they figure out their ways, but imagine throwing out some hot water and it turns into snow. Or, yeah, I can imagine you getting frostbite. I can imagine getting frostbite with fully clothed 3 layers on in a place like that.
And yet, just beneath the surface of Mount Erebus is an entire new world that we've only just started to come to understand. Decades and centuries worth of hot steam produced by the Mount Erebus volcano have carved out a network of tunnels through the ice beneath the mountain. Within these subvolcanic ice caves, the temperatures are known to reach as high as 25 degrees Celsius or about 77 Fahrenheit. Warm enough for you or me to hang out down there in a t-shirt and shorts and be comfortable doing it, despite being in the middle of Antarctica. And
This is interesting. You know, just today, I know this sounds weird. I thought what if there was like a portal where it was like a portal to like the North Pole, and then on the other side it was like maybe a warm beach in Florida. So when you get too sweaty, you just stand in front of the portal and you cool off. This is like the closest thing that I thought of. I just thought about that today, which is kind of funny. But this is wild. So you can hang out. You could go almost like really freeze. Then you walk into this tunnel, or where these hot water flows are, and you could strip down to a t-shirt and shorts and be comfortable as long as you don't go outside.
That means that the Antarctic subvolcanic cave systems could be warm enough to host all kinds of life that we may not even be aware of yet. Back in 2017, a team led by the Australian National University acquired a sample of the soil within one of these cave systems beneath Mount Erebus, and after analyzing its composition, they discovered that the soil contained DNA traces of things like algae and mosses, but most tantalizing of all, DNA traces of small animals that might be living down there as well in a sub-Antarctic oasis of life. Most of these animal-related DNA traces they found were similar to species that we already know of living up on the surface, but not all of them. Some of the traces couldn't be linked to species we already know about, but were most closely related to arthropods, species like shrimps, centipedes, or spiders, meaning that there could be arthropod-like species down in these warm caves beneath Mount Erebus that remain unknown to mankind. And indeed, there are 15 other active or semi-active volcanoes located across Antarctica that could contain similar warm steam-carved tunnels and caves beneath them all as well, meaning that there could be more than a dozen of these oasis-like ecosystems beneath the ice of Antarctica that we presently know virtually nothing about.
That's really cool how the volcanoes provide like an oasis for different life forms to live. I wonder if there's anything else further away from the volcanoes that they could find. But I know that they said earlier they haven't really found anything more than 15% of the information that they have about the continent. So I know it's very little information, but I'm just curious as to what else they could find out there.
Planes flying over Antarctica with radio echo sounding data have revealed a vast landscape beneath the ice of rolling valleys, riverbeds, and hills similar to the landscape seen elsewhere on Earth, only frozen in time and locked beneath kilometers of ice. One of the most interesting geographic features on the continent that was only recently discovered in 2019, however, is what we now know is the deepest canyon anywhere on the Earth's land surface. A canyon that, if it wasn't hidden by the ice above it, would put the Grand Canyon in America to shame. Within Greater Antarctica, beneath the Denman Glacier, exists the canyon that we now understand plummets to 3.5 kilometers deep beneath the sea level, which is just insanely deep. For reference, this canyon in Antarctica sinks to a depth that is roughly the same as the average depth of the Atlantic Ocean, and that's roughly half as deep as Mount Everest is tall. The deepest point below sea level on exposed land on the planet is the shoreline around the Dead Sea, between Jordan, Israel, and the West Bank, and it only sinks to as low as 413 meters beneath sea level. This canyon in Antarctica sinks nearly 8.5 times deeper than that. Only in the oceans do canyons.
Anything over a kilometer to me is deep. Actually, a kilometer is deep, period. But I mean, that's just insane. Actually, 10 feet is deep to me, but it's insane that it's something that deep, 3 kilometers, a canyon. You would think of the ocean, but that's just insane.
Dip deeper below the surface. And we didn't even know about this super deep canyon on Antarctica until 2019, because it's been covered up by kilometers worth of ice for millions of years now. Imagine what looking out at this canyon would be like without all of the ice obscuring it. But the deepest canyon on the Earth is far from the only interesting geographic feature that the ice of the frozen continent has been hiding from us. In 1958, a team of Soviet researchers in Antarctica discovered a massive mountain range beneath the ice sheet that nobody knew about beforehand, that became known as the Gamburtsev mountain range, named after the Soviet geophysicist Grigory Gamburtsev. These mountains are roughly the same length and height as the Alps in southern Europe are, running for about 1,200 kilometers long, with peaks soaring up to as much as 2,700 meters high. They're also completely obscured from the surface because they are buried beneath more than 600 meters of ice and snowpack, and they're still far from the only interesting thing hidden beneath the ice of the continent. In the late 1950s and early 60s, researchers began detecting a large gravity anomaly in East Antarctica where the gravity present was weaker than what would be naturally expected. The anomaly spanned across a huge area beneath the Antarctic ice sheet that was about 243 kilometers wide and sunk down to a depth of about 848 meters. For decades, there were several hypotheses about what exactly could be causing this weaker gravity in the area of East Antarctica until, in 2006, a team of researchers from Ohio State University, using data from satellites owned by NASA and the German Aerospace Center, managed to identify what they believed to be an ancient 480-kilometer wide meteorite impact crater that was buried beneath the ice sheet. But because of the area's extremely remote location and distance beneath several kilometers worth of solid ice, there still to date have never been any direct samples taken from the area to actually test for this impact event hypothesis.
And this is what, when they first said that, that had me thinking, how do you know it was a meteor impact if you can't get any soil samples? I mean, yeah, it looks like, it maybe look like a crater, but that could be something else. I don't know about, I don't know about, sometimes when the research comes out, people guesstimate things and like an impact, but again, like they mentioned, they haven't been able to get any soil samples to verify that. That makes me just think, I don't know, they should probably pump the brakes on guessing that far without all the evidence.
And so, the idea that an asteroid could have impacted this area and caused a massive crater in Antarctica is still only a theory for now, but a highly likely theory nonetheless.
I still don't think it's highly likely, but we can agree. I mean, I didn't do the research, of course. I didn't see what they see, but if I just don't. I would need soil evidence myself or something more than just a guess, just because it looks like an impact.
If the gravity anomaly here turns out to indeed be a meteorite impact crater, it would be by far the largest one ever discovered in the world, with a width that's nearly 3 times as large as the Chicxulub impact crater in the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico, that is believed to have been formed by a 10-kilometer wide asteroid that struck the area roughly 60.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop here. I probably need to do a part two because this is pretty long, but it's interesting the things that they did find with the little information they do have. I guess I'm also kind of, I'm not even iffy. I just don't buy the crater impact thing, and they're going into depth about how big it would be. I'm still not convinced yet, but I probably need to do a part two on the rest of this video. I just wanted to stop here because I didn't want to keep you too long. If you can make comments and offer your opinion and let me know what you think of the video. Thank you so much for watching and thank you for your time. And if you made it this far, please like and subscribe. Thank you very much.